This is gritty, gritty, gritty. This is real. This is our space. Confessions of a creative. Confessions of a creative. Confessions of a creative. Welcome back to Confessions of a Creative. My name is Dee, and this is where we discuss the unique journey of creative entrepreneurs. So if this content resonates with you, please like, share, and subscribe. Okay, so today we're going to be talking creatives and finances. I know some of you might be thinking this is oil and water, but there are two things that definitely need to be mixed. We definitely need to be on top of our finances, at least be financially literate. And if this is proving to be a struggle, we need help. So that's where our next guest comes into play. We welcome Rashida Parasram from MPR Consulting. She is a licensed accountant. She knows what she's doing, and she's going to give us a little more direction in this episode. So stay tuned to hear all of the fantastic advice and tips she's about to drop for us. Alrighty, so we are here with Rashida. We are so excited to have her. Welcome, Rashida.
Thank you.
So tell us what you are all about. Tell us what your business is all about.
Okay, so currently I manage and operate MPR Consulting, which is a boutique accounting firm which caters to small businesses, individuals as well as corporations and statutory organizations. So basically what I do would be a range of things from bookkeeping to compiling financial statements to projections which accompany loan applications, audit support, basically anything within the accounting field that you would require a consultant to do, you can hire me to do that. That's basically what my firm does.
Okay, fantastic. So first of all, I just want to say Rashida is my personal accountant. Like, if I did not, if I did not have you, Rashida, doing my accounts, I would be in shambles because it's just not in my house at all. That's not what, yeah, I would have been in shambles. So I just thought it best, you know what? Get someone who knows what they're doing, who knows their stuff, and to get you started because we definitely do not want to get any issues with taxes and all that. We want to be complete above board. So for
Agreed.
sure, I was,
Agreed.
yes.
And I want to also commend you, Deidre, for actually doing that because what I find happens is that a lot of entrepreneurs or a lot of small businesses, what happens is that they're so caught up in the day-to-day running of the business that they tend to let the paperwork and the bookkeeping aspect of the business fall behind. And then when it's time for filing personal taxes, which most entrepreneurs have to file, um, they then have the issue of not knowing where the paperwork is, not being able to compile the paperwork, not even knowing what allowances they can claim for, how to record the expenses or the income that they have. And there's a whole host of issues. And then what ends up happening is that a lot of people get turned off or turned away and they file the taxes and then they incur penalties and late filing fees. So I commend you for reaching out and for actually taking the step of actually hiring a qualified accountant, and I emphasize qualified accountant,
Yeah.
to actually help you not just to file the taxes, but also to help you to give you some pointers in terms of what to do on a day-to-day basis and how to improve your company's bookkeeping aspects as well.
Thank you so much because the thing is, working with you has been really it taken a load off my shoulders. My biggest thing was that I don't want to get locked up. I don't want to have any issues getting audited, all that. So I was like, no. But you're definitely a qualified accountant, which is very, very good and necessary. Just guys, go ahead and get yourself a qualified person who knows exactly what they're doing. So
Yes.
it's been a really good experience working with you for sure. And that's why
Awesome.
I really wanted to talk to you because I find that something that people, yes, but you can tell me if your experience has been different from what I perceive, but I find like creatives, we tend to be so free spirited and, let's not worry about this, or let's suppress this, like put that into a corner or put a rug over it. Let's not even, I just want to be happy go lucky and do my
Yeah.
art and work on my projects. But this is the more practical side of things that's very, very necessary. So I wanted to know, what has your experience been working with creatives in that regard?
Okay, so I would agree with you. I find, and I don't think it's just limited to creators, but for creators specifically, they are very passionate about what they're doing. They like the hands-on, they like to be involved in the creating of the product of or performing the service. That's where they get their joy, that's where they're expressing themselves, and that's where their focus primarily is on. They're quick to identify trends within their particular industry, etc. But when it comes to the mundane nitty gritty of making sure that they send out invoices on time, or they're making sure that their bills are being paid on time, or that they're filing the paperwork, you find that that's where they kind of like fall down. And again, it's not just the creators. I find this with any person that is an entrepreneur performing that is heavily involved in providing the service or the product. You'll find that the paperwork is always left to the last. It's always like, I'll get that later, I'll just shove it here, shove it in a drawer, shove it in a box,
Yeah.
or if it is filed, it's filed away, but it's not really that they go back to it and stuff like that. So I find that that is an issue that not just creators but just entrepreneurs in general do have. And I find that what is needed is that you have to have systems in place. And when I say systems, you don't have to have like a elaborate thing where you go, okay, I'm going to hire 50 people just to be able to manage this one process. You don't need to do that. But something as simple as taking one day or a couple hours a day to say, okay, I'm going to take this time to concentrate on making sure that for all these services I provided this week, my clients are invoiced for those services. And I find like when it comes to the invoicing, because that's how we're getting the money, that part is done pretty okay, right? Or you have like a
Right.
scheduling system and the invoices are going off. That's fine. They can tell you how much money they're making. But then when you ask them, okay, so in terms of buying the products now, to support the income that they're making, that becomes a little bit haphazard. Sometimes, it is that they have a receipt in a purse or in the car or something like that, and they can give you a ballpark figure of on average how much it will cost them to do something, but they can't give you an exact figure. So that's where you get the majority of the issues coming in when it comes to recording not just the income but also the expense side of the business, what they're paying out for providing the service that they are providing or the product that they're making. That's where you get a lot of the issues. So one of the simplest things I can recommend is having a day or a couple of hours a day where you say, okay, this is the time I'm going to take to invoice. And once I've invoiced the client, I'm going to look to tabulate what it is that it cost me this week or how I spent my money this week on this particular business. And then you start to generate an idea of all the different types of expenses, and you start to track those expense items. And you just do that a couple hours a day or dedicate one day a week to do that. And you'll see how much of a difference that will make. That's a very simplistic system that you can implement, and it will give you a better idea over how the business is performing versus just sending out the sending out the invoices, collecting the money, and then you take that money, you spend it on personal stuff or business stuff, but the next week you're like, wait, I made like $500 last week. How come I only got like $10 this week? And you're not really sure exactly how the money was spent, but you spend the money, right? So that's just one of the
That
things I would say.
okay, so that was so much awesome information and a lot of little nuggets of wisdom in there for sure. And
Yep.
what it brought to my mind was that when I first started paying attention to my finances, and like first of all, like with you, I learned certain what I can claim for my taxes, because once
Right.
before I wouldn't bother about getting receipts for certain things, like, oh, don't worry about it, sure, no problem.
No,
So
no, no.
now,
Yeah.
exactly. So now I'm much better with making sure I get my receipts for all these different services or products like to run my businesses or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
That's So that in itself also gives us some discipline, and it spills over to everything else, because one thing in talking to other artists, whether it be from graphic artists to actual fine art, whatever it may be,
Mm-hmm.
we tend to, because we're working on what we love, we can easily say, okay, I'm spending this money on the business. So, like, let's say for me, I can be like, wow, I want to go and get a new airbrush machine, or I want to get all these different eyeshadow palettes. And I can think in my mind, I'm investing in my business. But it's like, do I really need these things? Can I afford these things?
Mm-hmm.
What's the turnover gonna be? Like all of those things I wouldn't have considered before, but
Yeah.
then when you start to get your finances in order and kind of lay them out, and you can see, okay, this is, you get a little more organized and a little more strategic with also
Yes.
how you're spending your money. It helps you in so many different ways.
Yes, that is true. Um, Again, people get, particularly creators. As for example, I had a client that called last week, and she was having the issue of she's into jewelry making, and she knows that she needs beads, right, to make the different aspects of jewelry that she's making, but her thing was that she thinks she's spending too much money in the bead store. And I'm like, so what happens? She said, well, I go in there and I go for one particular thing and I end up buying a whole range of things because I could see this being used in this particular way or that being
Yeah.
used in that particular. And I'm like, but do you have a budget? She said, what? I was like, when you go into the bead store, do you say I'm spending $50 or whatever, and that $50 is going to cover the replenishment for the particular bracelets or jewelry that I want to make in this particular given period that I have a demand for. And then I would say, for example, another $10, and I would invest that in something else for a new piece. And then I was like, but how are you even thinking about the pieces that you're doing? Is it that you're just going based on you go in and you see a bead and then you realize that, oh, this could be used in this particular way? Or do you actually have standard products? So I find sometimes for creators, what happens is that the excitement and the passion to create is there, and they get so caught up in creating the product, but they don't necessarily all the time think through the process in terms of what's it going to cost me to make it? How much is it going to cost? Can I sell? If I use this particular type of product, would I be able to recover the money on it? Is it going to be too expensive? Will my clients, as much as I think it would sell, or is there really a demand for it? Will my clients really like it? Is this something that clients have been requesting that I do before I even start pouring money into it? So there's so many different aspects of the business and purchasing that and inventory management that you have to consider, even in designing a simple piece like a bracelet. So if she has standard pieces, and those are the ones that people are coming and then they're asking for customizations, now that's different because she can charge extra for the customizations because she can go and she can buy the particular demand that she has or the particular item. She can charge extra for that one. But if there's no demand for the item, she goes and she invests all of this money into these beads and then she can't get it sell, then that's wasted time, effort, and money. So I find with creators, what is necessary is that sometimes you need to have standardized items. You need to charge extra for customizations. And then when it comes to replenishing your inventory and replenishing your stock, if there's something that you want to experiment with, do it on a minimal scale and as a tester versus going to invest heavily into the item and then realizing that the demand isn't there for the product. Or if it is that you're getting requests for a particular item or there's a demand for a particular type of service, then investigate without spending the money. You can go in, you can look at the pricing and cost the item first before you actually start to invest your money into it. Because I find that you just get really passionate, you just have the idea and you just run with it. And sometimes that causes you to spend a lot of money and then you realize you may not even be able to recover it. So sometimes the best thing to do is window shop, have an idea of what the cost would be, cost the item first, come up with a prototype or mock up of the item or the service and see if it's something people be interested in before you throw money behind it. I think that's one of the things that creators and artistic type people have to be really conscious about, not throwing money behind a product or idea because they think it is really good, but really see if there's a demand for the product first.
Yeah, no, totally. I so resonate with all everything you said because I've been through that. Like we sometimes go and we see these new things, and the thing is with just in general with marketing, like you will have two identical products, but one product has come out in the market a little later, and it's repurposed or marketed in a different way, but it's essentially the same thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I found myself buying duplicates of things because it looks all nice and shiny and new, and then I go to do my inventory and I'm like, what? Like I already have this. I spent $50 extra on this, and you know what I mean? So
Yes.
like being financially literate
Yeah.
and paying more attention to this area, it spills over into so many other aspects of your business and just making it better, and it actually helps to relieve a lot of stress because people tend to feel like, oh, I just don't want to deal with it, that's so stressful. But
Mm-hmm.
take it head on and you just get your act together and try to be a little more organized. And as you said, you don't have to be like au fait with a lot of things. You don't have to be an expert. You can use little
Mm-hmm.
simple models, and doing that really relieves so much stress from your business life because you know what's
Yeah.
happening and you have a direction and you know what to do and where to go.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask you like if you can give us a couple tips
Yeah, sure.
for money management.
I'll give you a
How can
couple.
we
Yeah.
we
Sorry,
did
sorry, not
before?
crossing you.
So it's okay. You've given us a lot before, but basically, yeah. Do you have any more like a couple more tips on how we could kind of streamline our finances
Okay.
ourselves? Like for you, definitely, I will always tell people if you don't know what you're doing, get somebody to help you with your taxes,
For sure.
whatever. Don't try to do that yourself. But is there any other way we could, you know, um, get our acts together, so to
Okay.
speak?
So I do have a number of things that I can suggest, but I'll concentrate on the things that I think are key. I think for creators, particularly persons who are making products, not necessarily those who are offering services, but it depends on the type of service. Because as the service involves you having an inventory or stock items, what I would suggest is that before you go there and you purchase a whole heap of things for a particular product or for your particular service, I would recommend that you would take the time out to investigate all the possible suppliers that you would need and the prices that they have, and then kind of come up with like a cost structure of your particular products or your particular services before you then go into the whole habit of going straight into purchasing the items and creating the product and then trying to sell it. Try to
That's
come up
important.
with the cost structure of the product first, and then that can help you get an idea as to how much you'll need to sell it, and then take that out there and put it before or create a prototype too, and take that before your customers or to the market, and then kind of determine where you'll go from there. So that kind of saves you a little bit in terms of having to spend money that you don't necessarily have or you can't afford in a particular area, and then realize that it was wasted time, wasted effort, and wasted money. So that was just a general suggestion in terms of
You
money
know what?
management. Mm-hmm.
That Sorry, just to cut just a second. You know what I actually brought to mind? I know a lot of us, I used to do this before, and I know a lot of creative people who who monetize that creativity. So they have their businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Someone will say, okay, what's the price to do this or do that? You can do it, but you don't have it on your list of services or your list of products. But you know it's
Mm-hmm.
something you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And might just say, oh, it's $100 or it's $50. And we
Mm-hmm.
don't take the time to do that research you were talking about to really look at the costing, like how much is this going to cost? And then what do you want to profit? So
Mm-hmm.
then we end up in a situation where you're going to actually create this thing or provide this service and you realize, oh my goodness, like I'm actually only breaking even or not or actually going into the red doing
Mm-hmm.
this. If I had
Yeah.
taken the time, told the client, well, give me a couple of days, I'll get back to you with a quote, and you do
Yeah.
your research, then you can confidently go and say this is it, and you're not going to have all this drama and bad feelings and losing money in
Yeah.
that way. So a good tip. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for that.
No problem. But when it comes to customizations, I will always recommend that you explain to the client that it's a customization, and because it's not something that you do every day, it's not that you can't do it, that you will have to get back to them on the price of it and try to turn over the quotation or getting back to them as quickly as possible, but do the research in the interim so that you're not, as you rightly said, not costing the item and putting yourself at a break-even position or even in the red. In terms specifically as it relates to money management, though, what I would recommend, one of the first things is that I will always tell my clients, make sure you have a separate business account. Not it can be at the credit union, it can be at a commercial bank, but have a bank account or a credit union account that your money goes into from your business, not one that your personal money and your business money is intertangled, right? And the reason for this is because if you have one place where you're constantly putting your business money, right, you know for certain, okay, that's where my money is going. And when I need to spend money for the business, that's where I'm going to go. So that it helps you to keep a track record on a monthly basis. Like every month, you'll get a bank statement that will tell you, okay, look, this is how much cash you have available for the business. So every month, at least you'll have an idea of how much money is available for you to spend in the following month. And one of the reasons why that is so very important is because when you start to mingle your personal and your business cash, um, when it comes time for tax filing now, for filing taxes, you're only interested in the business portion. You're not interested in the personal portion. And when you can't separate the two, it's very difficult then to say how much money your business has earned in a year, how much money you spent in the business during the year, and then to figure out what your tax position then becomes very difficult. Because if you are taking money to, for example, grocery shop from your business account, then for tax purposes, that is not an allowed expense. So technically speaking, it's as if you didn't even take that money out. It's as if the business still had money when it comes to doing your taxes. So you might not have it in your pocket, but from the tax perspective, it's still treated as money that you have because your personal expenses have no right being in there. So you have to disallow any of the personal expenses. So the best thing to do is to separate them one time. Have an account that if you have to take off a portion of money for yourself, you do that every month, similarly to how you have a salary. You take off a portion of money and then you spend that money from your personal account strictly, and you just leave your business finances separated. Because the thing about being self-employed is that you're not seen as a company, you're still seen as an individual. So you need to better track what your business performance is compared to a company who is considered a separate entity altogether. So that's one of the first recommendations, to have a separate business account for your business, for your hobby, whatever it is, just set up a separate business account. The second thing that I would recommend is making sure that you're filing and keeping the receipts. As simplistic as that sounds, it is very, very, very important because if you are providing a service that requires you to travel or to drive from St. Lucie to St. Philip every single day, that is gas that has to be considered for the company as an expense. And if you're not getting a receipt or you're not keeping the debit printout when you get it from the gas station every time you top up the car with gas, then you're missing out on expenses that can be allocated to the business. Again, that comes into play when it's tax filing time, but it also helps you to understand the nature of the other expenses apart from those that go into making the product or the service that you're selling directly to the customer. It also helps you to identify some of your other business expenses like utilities, gas, stationery, um, mobile
Packaging.
phone, packaging, mobile phone bills, all of those other things also are business expenses. Now, those also have to be factored into your cost, into your selling price, sorry. So when you're charging the client for your particular product or service, it's not just about the immediate supply or raw material that goes into making the product, but you need to factor in, well, if I have to drive from St. Philip to St. Lucie to provide a service, well, I need to factor in an element in there for gas, because if I didn't have to go up there, I would not use the gas. So the customer needs to reimburse, if not all, a portion of the gas, for providing the service. So those are some of the other things that need to be considered as well. So tracking,
That is
yeah, so in order to do that, you need to save all of these receipts, all the invoices that you get when you take on when you go to spend anything for the business. So that's the second tip. The third tip that I would recommend you do, you don't have to be an accountant expert or anything like that, but I would recommend for those who want to take it to the extra step and want to implement within their system an actual software program that they can use is Wave Accounting. I would recommend that they set up a Wave account. It allows you to invoice your clients immediately. You can send electronic invoices to the clients. You can see when the clients receive them. So you're able to track the payments that you're receiving from your clients a lot better. And the other thing is it allows you to also enter the expenses into the Waves accounting. So you can come up with like a profit and loss statement for your company to see how much money you made, how many expenses you had, and the overall profit for the year that your company would have, which is also something that you can use or you can provide to your accountant to use for the purposes of filing your taxes as well. So all of it kind of comes hand in hand in terms of going back to filing for taxes, but not just taxes is important, yes, but it's also about you, the business owner, understanding how your business does. So yeah, as I was saying, so Wave Accounting is one of the programs. It's free, and it is a very good program that you can use as a starting accounting software program that you can use to help you put together not just the invoicing for the clients, but also recording the expenses of the company so that you have an understanding of how your business is performing. And having an understanding of how your business is performing is very important because you know for certain by seeing the actual numbers if the business is growing year by year or if the sales are declining, which particular products or services you're getting most of your revenue from, which clients owe you money, who the persons you have to, chase after a little bit to kind of collect the money because it tells you how long your invoices have been unpaid. So
right.
it's very beneficial from that aspect of it in terms of that also helps you to manage your cash because if you have outstanding invoices, it means that you're not collecting money that you're going to need for expenses that are coming up. So if you have an idea of which invoices are outstanding, which clients owe you money, then you can better able recover that money by calling up those clients and, being like, well, the invoice was sent on such and such a date. How soon would you be able to pay? I will also recommend in terms of cash management for services and depending for creatives, sorry, not just services, for creatives, always take a deposit. Don't ever start the service without taking a deposit on your money because or stagger the payments as much as possible because you don't want to wait to the end of performing the service or creating the product and then have the customer pay because then it puts you in a position where you may not even recover all of your money. It's very difficult because if a person isn't going to pay you regardless, they wouldn't. But at least if you can recover a portion of the money before the service is, before the service is performed, it will help. It will definitely help without having all of it outstanding at the end of providing the service or giving them the particular product.
That is so true. That is so true. I've seen that happen so many times. And if you can get, in most cases, if you can get your clients to give you a down payment, that's them. Like you're forcing them to
Mm-hmm.
invest in this project or service or product or what have you. So they're not gonna, most times they're not gonna wanna lose their investment. So
It's true.
for
It's true.
sure, for sure.
Yeah, it's
Another
true.
thing too, you'd be surprised the amount of people who literally did not know that they could get a receipt for gas. Like I talk to people all the time and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know, gas stations don't give you receipts." I'm like, "You have to ask for it.
Yeah,
Just ask for it
you
if
do.
you. So that's totally important. And I didn't know that so many people didn't know
Yeah, if
that
you're
that was the
paying,
thing.
yeah, definitely. If you're paying for your gas by cash, you can request the receipt. But what you can also use is that if you pay for it by debit card, if you use the swipe machine, just keep the tab, the slip that you get from the gas attendant, just keep that and use that to track it as well. So if it's a
Yeah,
case where you swipe your card, just keep the slip that you receive.
I
If
got
you're paying,
both.
if you're paying by cash, request the cash receipt.
Yeah, I totally get both because I'm just used to that. My parents always used to ask for a receipt, so I was used to that part. But yeah, no, and I obviously before that I didn't know you can claim that.
Mm.
But I love all the little tips that you've given us to be able to get our minds, because it's nice and fun to be all creative and whimsical and do your thing. That has its place. But you
Mm-hmm.
cannot ignore if you're going to make it a business or you are running a business, you can't ignore the financial part. And you
No,
have to appreciate, exactly, you got to appreciate the fact that that financial literacy and getting it together is going to then in turn spill it over to just running a better business and you feeling better about everything and being in a position of power to make certain decisions for your business because that's what it gives you.
it's true. It's true. Definitely.
Yeah, so I want to say thank you so much for talking to us. I cannot wait for everyone to hear this interview because it is so beneficial for sure.
No problem.
Yeah, so I will just
It
sign
was a
off.
pleasure.
Yeah, so I'll just sign off now. So you guys, you know that I'm always sending you so much love, and we will talk soon. This is gritty, gritty, gritty. This is real. This is our space. Confessions of a creative. Confessions of a creative.